George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Hope you're doing well on this day. Our guest today is Nigel Henry, Human Greatness Activation, helping you to activate the greatness in you. Now, do you explain what you do so that our audience can be ready for the transformation that's going to happen today? We are going to talk to you. I am going to share with you a story about using your gifts and what gets in the way of you doing that. And I'll share my own experience with that. And Nigel's going to help guide us to a way that we never feel like we are not using and walking in our truth, right? Because I think that our gifts are really our truth, and sometimes we be lying. So let's talk to so Nigel, human greatness activation. Talk to me about what that is, and then we'll move to some of the experiences that we're going to share today.
I'll just share in a short story. My background is software engineering. I come from the world of computers, and I was fixing the bug for a corporation in Y2K, and I finished it, and I heard the voice within me, the Spirit of God, saying to me, Nigel, well done. You have fixed the bug in the human computer, then the electronic computer. Now go and fix the bug in the human computer. And I said, yes. And I found the bug. And literally what I found is that just like computers, they were designed to work right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The creator made no errors in the factory. But there's a thing called programming language that has bugs in it. And depending on the amount of bugs in the language, it will make the mind go funny and cause human dysfunctions and weird things, which we'll be discussing. So my gift, one of my gifts, is locating the bug in the conversations that shape the thinking and removing that bug. And when you remove a bug from software, the computer works. When you remove the bug from the mind thinking software, the mind works in the way that God intended. So that's what I do. I debug humans. And when you debug a human being, they activate, they just come to life and do the right thing.
I love that description. It's very easy to understand and it's very simple. Basically, you're telling us that our words have power internally and externally. And if we are not choosing the right words, if I am not choosing the right words, because we'll get to that in a second, then we will continue to have, what do you call those errors? Blue screens.
In psychological term, dysfunction. Trauma.
So this week I had a pretty good week, right? I was asked to introduce or speak to this audience. It was I'm on the board of the Symphoria, and this night was a night involving gospel and symphony. So Symphoria is a symphonic orchestra of Syracuse, New York. I'm on the board. And so the executive director said, hey, so I was explaining, I said, this is the second year that they were doing this. A good friend of mine, Cora Thomas, was the one that put it together. But I was having lunch with the executive director of the Symphoria. I said, look, people who go to the symphony, when I go to the symphony, I have a good time. I move, I tap, I do all this stuff. But I notice that I'm usually the only one in that audience that's doing that. I said, if we're going to the symphony and the gospel, I said, we just have to remind the audience that they didn't, they don't have to do all that they do for the symphony. This is church. So they need to come. And so she says, oh, well, maybe you can do that. I was like, well, I wasn't really asking myself to do that. So anyway, I get up there and I really felt in my element. I felt I had a good time. I was totally myself. I threw in a little something for the church folk, had a little razzle dazzle going on. But the point was that I knew that audience, or at least I knew part of the audience. And so I wanted the two audiences to feel comfortable with each other because, the church folk gonna testify, they're gonna amen and raise their hand. And the symphony is used to they might feel it's great, but it's not to the end where they give you all the applause. And so people had come up to me and said later, "Oh wow, I really enjoyed you kicking it off. Got a note from my pastor. I was really happy." And so it got me thinking, man, I really felt that I was using my gifting at that moment, right? And so it got me to thinking about how often do I not do that or show up in that way in all of the spaces. So this is a little bit of vulnerability for me right here, right now, right? So how often am I showing up in that way where I'm feeling totally in sync, where in your language, where the computer is operating in all its and that I'm using what I was gifted with. And so today I wanted to spend a little time with you, Nigel, to talk about when I am in that situation and how I can show up even in every way that I want to in the full strength of my gifting. And I expect that there are people who are listening to this show right now that sure they're showing up with their gifting all the time, but maybe there's times when they're not feeling like they can show up fully in the way that they know that they've been purposed for. And so the first question I had is how do I, well, and then here's the ultimate piece, right? I guess this could be the beginning or the end, but let's start. I know you're a numbers guy. So the question, let me start with, there's a lot of questions here, but I'll start with, and how do I use that gifting to get paid? So let's talk about it. You're a numbers guy, so I know you like numbers.
I like the numbers. And I like numbers that
So,
have dollar signs.
right. So
So
yeah,
let's start there.
yeah.
This is one thing I'd like to say, and it may sound controversial,
Uh-huh.
but it is all about the money.
Mm.
George, it's all about the money.
Hey,
So
what did Puffy? No, is it Puffy or is it Biggie that said it's all about the Benjamins, baby? One of them said that.
one of them, and they're correct. And I think that's the first thing is it's about the money. All right. Now
it was Mace, I think. Go ahead.
well, and what the money is doing is measuring the value that I'm expressing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think you mentioned they give applause,
mm-hmm.
or you got some reward, recognition from your pastor,
right?
But in the real deal, on the extreme version, people throw the money at you,
right,
Jordan.
right.
Like you're on the stage, they're like, "Oh, we love you, man." Dollar sign. They throw the money on the stage. That's
right,
the
right.
recognition, which is saying we value the value that you're putting down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. Sorry, remind me of the question again, because you said it's what was the question? But I know the answer start with the money.
It's how do I use my gifts to get paid? How do
there
I?
You go. Right there.
Wait. No. The question is, how does operating in my strengths or my gifting gets me paid?
Yes.
Because some people might say, well, your gifting may not be in that your gifting may be of service, so that may not be a remuneration. So,
well, this is why I started with the money.
Yeah.
Money is measuring value being expressed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you clap your hands and people love that, they'll give you money for it. If you are dancing and fully expressing yourself in your movement, like you were saying, just looking good, and people value that, they measure that value in money, right? So that's the first thing. That's the purpose of money, is to measure the value that people are experiencing. Number one. So then, as George, my job is to put out value. Where do I get that value from? It turns out our creator wisely installed packets of value in our DNA. And you know what they call, George?
What do they call it?
Gifts.
Gifts. Oh, yeah. Right.
Gifts and talents. You're
That's
born
right.
with them.
That's correct. And some
And
people have different gifts and talents. That's
well,
correct.
that's so that we can have a variety of expressions of value,
Right.
which means that, but everybody gets paid in the same currency of the land, right? If your gift is dancing, you're going to get paid in dollars. If your gift is speaking, you're going to get paid in dollars. Whatever your gift is, it's going to put out value, and value is measured in dollars. So now we got to, so your question is related to how do I get paid for staying in my gifting, or how can I use my gifting to get paid?
Correct.
That's exactly what your gifting is for. So the question is, how can I stop withholding my gifting? That's the real issue. Why would you not put the gifts out that gets you paid? That's what gifts are for. I'm just imagine in the factory of heaven. I was like, okay, I never want this guy to work for a living. So what I'm going to do is install these packets so that if he ever needs some money, he just have to share these gifts, and then he'll get paid. Notice, didn't say go and get a degree. It just said share your gifts. And so the moment I allow myself to express my gift, operate from in my gifting, that's when I'm in my maximum joy. And that's when I also get paid the most. So the question only comes up when I have habitually withheld the expression of my gifts for whatever reason, because society doesn't want me to dance because that gift is not respected here, or so I shut it down. And so the question is, why am I really, the real question is, what right do I have to withhold my gifting?
So what gets and just so my audience, just so that they, for those of you, you're like, well, is it just all about the money? Nigel says it is all about the money, right? So how do you then, what gets in the way of us, because the way you frame it, I think, is really important. What gets in the way from us operating in the gifts that we have been given?
Yes, that's a much better question, and it's the one that matters. The concern that others will not accept me.
Interesting. Talk to me.
So,
or better still, fear in that moment, because sometimes, okay, we're going all the way there, Nigel. Sometimes I have felt too much for an occasion, and I hold back.
Right? Let's go right there. I felt too much. Now, what does too much mean?
Right, like well, that I'm not going to give you all of that right now
because
I'm trying to be humble right here.
There it is.
Yeah.
Let's pretend you weren't humble, which means you're going to give it all of that.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen if they get all of that right now and I forgot to be humble? What is the worst case scenario?
Well, they won't invite me back, or
there it is, the concern.
Yeah.
I will not be accepted.
Or yes, I won't be accepted. Yes.
That is the root concern there.
Right. So I'm going along to get along because I'm in a new situation.
Well, that's one of the patterns that comes from that root concern. I want to get up and say hallelujah right there at work. And you know what? I think they're not. You see what I'm saying?
I'm laughing. Right? But you know what? But if I did, you know what they would probably say? Oh, that's just George. He's just happy today.
Yeah,
right?
Well, at least they're accepting it.
Right.
If George doesn't say it, it's because George is concerned that they'll take it worse than that.
Right.
That's the pleasant one. He's like that. But this is an outburst. What kind of absolute mumbo jumbo is this? He goes against the culture. Who does he think he is? You see, all these things are what I'm thinking.
Oh man, I've thought that before. Like, well, I don't want to give them all of that in this space, but then I'll show up in another space and give them everything.
Because you're not concerned about being rejected in that space, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because let's talk about like in real life, right? Because being a public person in media and having controversial opinions, and I'm on the radio, and I get a lot of hate. And you know what? That hate did not bother me. Isn't that funny? But interpersonally, if I know you, it would bother me more. But you just random calling me on the show and we having a thing, and I was in a training this past week, and they were like, I listened to you, but I didn't really like your opinions, but you were all right. But I didn't really like your opinions. And I was okay with that.
So,
but not okay in every situation. So how do we do that?
Well, any situation where I think I'm not okay, it's coming back down to the same thing. I have a concern about what others may say or do based on what I say.
Mm-hmm.
If I express this gift, number one, the worst scenario is they will not accept it, and I'll have cast my pearls, right, in front of swines, and I feel like unappreciated. Worst case, they are offended by the expression of me in my gifts. And that's why I contain myself and, like, you know what, I can't just let myself be free and express all these gifts freely. So I withhold it because of concern of what others think. All of it, whether it's personal or public, it's the same root cause. I'm too concerned about my audience reaction. That's why I withhold. So the cure, here's a cure.
Let's talk about it. Yes.
It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
George, your opinion of me is none of my business.
I've heard that so many times, and it's so hard to. I feel that's a what do you call it, one of those things? It's a slogan, but it's harder to practice.
Yes. Now it requires courage to practice it. So it is a correct slogan, but it takes courage to avoid worrying about what others think, because some people genuinely threaten you if you are yourself. Mm-hmm. And some organizations have rules that prevent you from being yourself, right?
And you're so right. And it's an interesting example of this. It just came to mind. Are you familiar with the personality Tabitha Brown? Are you familiar with her?
No, just describe her.
All right. So Tabitha Brown, internet personality. She became a vegan. She became a social media influencer, internet personality. She's an actress. She's so recently. She got a book deal. She has seasonings that are. She got brand partnership with Target, with McCormick seasoning, and she just got a show on the Food Network called "It's Complicated," right? Because she has people make different meals that everybody can eat, and sometimes there's restrictions on the food. Anyway, they wanted her. She's very folksy and homespun. She has some sayings that are catchphrases, and she has a great and tremendous following on Facebook, social media, and etc. Make a long story short, she went on social media to say exactly kind of what we're talking about right now, because they've she with the executives wanted her to change her down home folksy ways, not speak the way she does. She's from the South, so she has little sayings and mannerisms. And she says she came on social media not too long ago, and they also moved her show from prime time to like daytime. And she was like, let me just tell y'all something. It's not a company. It's not a whatever. I am not changing who I am. I'm exactly who I am. And if y'all can't accept this, this is her language. If you can't accept me for who I am, then I'm sorry. But this is who I am, and I'm not changing my little mannerisms, my way I speak for you. And so it was a bold statement, I thought.
Now that actually contains the solution. Number one, there's a distinction called my identity activates my superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is when I'm being my true identity, it releases my gifts, period. Right? And secondly, there's a scripture that says, my sheep knows my voice, meaning my frequency, way of being, identity is going to speak to a certain set of the population and repel a certain set. And that's exactly the best thing. If I am attracting everybody, then I'm trying to please everybody, and that's never going to work. I've just got to know that whoever resonates with my true identity are basically saying, I like receiving your gifts. And those people are my people. And they love when I'm being true to myself, because I give them permission to be true to their selves. That's the root of it. When I am true to myself, my gifts are activated and come out. And those people who resonate with who I am value my gifts. There are people in the world that don't value what I put out. Not everyone likes apples or oranges, but the people that like oranges are going to like what I have to say. So I have stopped worrying about pleasing everyone, and I'm focused on knowing that when I'm true to myself, my gifts come out, and there are people who are searching for and love consuming my gifts, and those are the people that put money in my pocket.
And so then, so if I've been concerned about showing up as myself, the test is, how do I do that in all circumstances, in all situations, comfortably? Or said another way, when you start doing that, George, all the time, and whoever else is listening, it isn't going to be comfortable. How do I get comfortable with that discomfort?
I think I decline to answer any question that involves getting comfortable.
Thank you.
So,
right. Because in other words, the discomfort is the growth.
Even better, the big money is outside the comfort zone.
Okay.
And so I say, do whatever makes me uncomfortable until I become comfortable with the uncomfortable. That is the growth. The discomfort that I'm feeling is my expression seeking greater expression. And when I hold it in, it's like the force of greatness pushing out and against the concern of limitation. And one of them is going to win. And it's time to let the greatness win by being uncomfortable.
So you've said to me that about 10 minutes, you've said to me that the greatness is connected to how we use our voice, connected back to the bugs that have to be reprogrammed. So this is a two-part question, because part of it is all, so I see it a couple of ways. This growth also means that there are some things that we've got to release.
Yes.
Right? We got to release some things. And I think the way I phrase this, the way I think about this is, you want to soar with the Eagles, right? Not the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't get it twisted. But you want to soar with the Eagles, right? But sometimes you're with a lot of pigeons and they don't go that high. So let's talk about the voice, the gifting, and the surrounding, who you are surrounded with, because I think that's also part of it too. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, it's time for some new blood. It's time for some new blood, because I'm looking at the circles. I'm like, okay, it's time to reconfigure, right? We got to, or set it in your computer language. It's time to reboot. So getting back to the two central questions here. What do we debug to use our voice more powerfully? And what do we have to cut away in our circle of influence or friendships so that we're as authentically ourselves and moving in the direction that we have intended? It's a lot there.
No, yeah, but it makes sense. The first thing is the direction that was intended is vertical. Go higher.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think of it as like a cone, the lower I am on the pyramid is the more people that I've got to interact with, and the typically is the lower the standard or the more the limitations that I'm dealing with. As soon as I start going higher, my circle gets smaller, but the standard got higher, and it keeps going. And you've heard this phrase, it's lonely at the top.
Lonely at the top.
That's because you've released so many people, but only a few people can handle this higher value, higher systems, higher freedom. And that's why the eagle soars high. And when the eagle wants to get rid of the crow, he just goes vertical and automatically they just drop off.
Right. Because the crow's intention is to eat the dead carcasses.
Yeah, but he can't do it at high altitude.
No.
So he automatically drops off. So the first thing, if I would like to change my circle, I must change my elevation.
Mm-hmm.
Just go vertical. All right. Now, when I'm going higher, like I have less people to please. And in fact, the people at this higher elevation, higher awareness, they have given up trying to please everybody, which is why their circle is smaller.
That's really powerful right there. Keep going.
And from what I've seen, the higher I go is the greater the quality, the less tolerant I am of limitations. And there's more freedom. And it's strange. The higher I am is the more freedom I have. And then if you just look in society, the people who are high up also have the power. And if you look at it again, the more I share my gifts is the higher up I go. The more in demand I am, and the greater my standard of practice becomes, the more I share it. Like take any gifted performer, and I'll see that they just start focusing on purely on their gifts. Michael Jackson,
right,
stayed in his gifts. He didn't have to play any instruments. He just had two gifts, voice and movement, and he just stayed there. And the longer he stayed there, the more he went vertical till he became the king of pop, which is the top of the food chain. So gifting gets stronger when I go vertical. The amount of people that I please gets less when I go vertical. If I want to go vertical quickly, I have to give up trying to please everybody because most people don't agree with what I have to say. And is any vertical movement is turbulent. When a plane takes off and is climbing, they said, ladies and gentlemen, keep your seatbelts fastened.
Right.
We're going through some turbulence until we get to cruising altitude. So any kind of vertical movement is uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable. So, and that's necessary if you're going to be who you say you want to be. Now, I also asked you about the debugging, right? What's the reprogramming that has to happen to clear this out so that my voice can be activated in my gifting? Oh, I just said something. Come on now.
Well, first of all, I would keep the first thing is to talk out
loud. Out loud.
And then declare the higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I am at the next level. Like Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest of all time.
I'm the greatest of all time.
That's the top of the food chain.
Yes.
And he declared that before he had the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And people were concerned about him saying that because you have like, dude, what if you lose? All these concerns come up. So this is where the bugs come in. I declare that I'm the greatest of all time, and then I've got to go and fight someone, and there's a possibility that I might lose. And then I will not have proven that I'm the greatest. And so what you hear is all these doubt. That's the bug. That creates the bug. Any statement that has doubt or makes me doubt my declaration is a sign that I have a bug.
For example, so you gave him one example, Muhammad Ali. What are other examples of that?
I'm going to stay in my gift, and like speaking is a gift, right? I'm going to be the #1 speaker on in my field, and I say that, and then they go, Nigel would like you to come and speak at our next event. Nervous. What if I don't, what if I mess up? What if? And it turns out if is one of the virus words, bugs. I don't know if I'm ready. Don't is a virus word. So the practice I do is I declare something and then write down every doubt and concern that pops up after I made that next level declaration. And then I look at what I wrote down, like the concerns. I'm not sure if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm going to do this right. Am I, and then I notice what I call the virus words, which we've talked about, or we can share with the listeners. And it turns out the word don't is the bug. Mm-hmm. And if you take that out, you get, I don't know if I can make it. If I take the word don't out, I know that I can make it. Declaration of confidence. I'm not sure if this is going to work. The word not and if is a virus. And listen to this. Take both of them out. I am sure it's going to work. You see, so in other words, all my concerns are really my heart's intentions infected with these virus bug words. And as long as I take them out, my declaration and my concerns will line up to keep me moving vertical. I hope that makes sense, George.
Yeah. So as I'm hearing you, as I heard you say, that I love this practice. So if I'm feeling uncertain, write down all the concerns that I have about using my gift in that uncertainty. Yes. And then look at that and then replace all of the. Just
don't replace, delete.
Delete the virus words. If, don't, I'm not sure. No, all of those words.
Yes.
And it turns it around.
Well, it doesn't turn it around. It reveals the truth.
It reveals the truth. And it's also part of your declaration. Declare a thing.
Yes. So a concern is a declaration with virus. So let's go back to your original story about your gifting. And he's like, number one, how can I use my gifts to get paid? That answer is, my gift is for me to get paid. God gave me it so I can give to people so they can pay me. That's what my gifts are for. Second thing is, what prevents me from expressing my gifts at all times? And the answer is concern. Major concern specific with George here is that they may not accept me when I'm sharing, when I'm in my authentic self, which means I'm gifting flowing through me. So there it is. The concern that specific is they may not accept me.
Right.
Just take the virus out of that one word. There's only one virus in that. And what do you get?
They accept me.
Good. Now repeat that 100 times.
Right.
They accept me is an affirmation of the truth, which is in alignment with my intention of sharing my gifts. And this is what people call positive thinking. I just call it virus-free thinking. All
right. So let me ask you this. This is the last, we're over time, but I got to finish this up in 1 minute because you're going to give this. I just got a call. Somebody had a bad experience. They went somewhere. They were, what do you call it? They were asked to perform and it didn't go well. And how, so in that way, so, they used their gift, they went to do it and it didn't go well.
According to the intention.
It didn't go right. It didn't go according to the intention. Right. So in that moment, what's the recovery so that you don't, right? What's the recovery?
Okay. Beautiful question. It's called the gift of errors. Most people have, every performance has errors in it.
Right.
And the masters, the great Tiger Woods, any great ones that are at the top of the food chain, they practice reducing the error. They practice, practice is the rapid and frequent detection and recovery from error. So whenever I get an error, I just go, okay, good. The error contains the lesson. let's go and debug the error and find out what the way to improve it. So that's how Apple gives us the iPhones. Every time one of those, they put out an iPhone, it has a bug in it, and they send it back to HQ, and they debug it and send you iPhone 4. And then iPhone 4 has a bug, they debug it, give you iPhone 5. So errors are for continuous improvement. And as long as I'm on Earth, I will make errors.
So how do I not? So that I just wanted to give that to somebody, because somebody did something this week and they fell flat on their face.
They made error.
They made error, and they feel devastated. They don't feel.
First step, forgive myself.
Yeah.
I forgive myself for I have made an error, and all errors came from not paying attention to something. Every single error. So somewhere I wasn't paying attention, therefore I fell flat. Error. Thank God I have an error, because I'm going home with my gift of error to study to get the lesson from the error. That person, when they recover and get the lesson, they'll be the best teacher on earth. That's how God works. My error is my lesson that I'm going to be teaching later. I've never met anyone who has become great that didn't make any errors.
Let's do this. All right. You were giving me a summary of what did I learn today? What should I tell you?
Go ahead, Josh. Summarize for us.
Well, first of all, let's operate in my gifts. I had to shed concerns, and I use my gifts. As I use my gifts, I will get paid.
I'm getting paid because I'm using my gifts.
I'm getting paid because I'm using my gifts. Did I do that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then sometimes, and then to go vertical, I make declarations about how I'm going to serve my gifts even at a greater level. And I may not please everyone because it's lonely at the top. And then secondly, going vertical is uncomfortable. So always go vertical and operate outside of my comfort zone. Fourthly, the higher my level of performance is, the more money I make using my gifts. If I perform down here where the masses are, but if I start performing higher and higher levels, the money increases. That's why the big money is outside of my comfort zone.
Human greatness activation. Nigel, how do people get a hold of you?
The best thing is to go to greatnessactivation.com/COMP and get a complimentary session and get your greatness activated. greatnessactivation.com/COMP.
All right, Nigel Henry, Human Greatness Activation. We are activated. I am activated in my gifts, flying vertically with the eagles. I declare that I am the #1 talk show host in this country.
And
okay,
so
in multimedia, TV, radio, and podcasting. Inspiration for the nation.